Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to look at what happened at the ES on the ES yesterday, which was Thursday the 28th of April. I've deliberately chosen to do a video for yesterday because it was a very frustrating day, and I think it's important that people know that the markets can be frustrating. I call it the cyclical nature of trading. I talk about, for you guys who can remember some old spaghetti westerns of the 70s, the good, the bad and the ugly is another way to look at it. And that you'll have good days when you have nice profitable days, you'll have hard days, and you'll have losing days. And I think there's too many software vendors only ever show good profitable days and good big trades. It's just unrepresentative of how the markets really unfold. So I just want to have a look at yesterday and show you how it was just a very, very frustrating day. Let's start with the higher time frame charts. We always do this. So on the 3-minute chart we go out to the 15-minute chart. Now for this we place our DPs on our charts in advance. They're from prior pivots. So we'd have actually gone back to this prior pivot high here. This is very choppy here. It's been very choppy over the last few days. It's been hard trading, but the Fed has been doing something with the US government. We're not quite sure what. So I think this is made the markets fairly nervous. That's why it's been chopping sideways. But that prior pivot was a good one to take because that was the highest pivot previous to where the highs were coming in here. The reason I've taken that one there is because the high of the day, the previous day, which was the 27th, came in right at that DP resistance. You can see there it nailed that high absolutely perfectly. So from this, our large degree trend was then set to be down. Down into where? Well, this is the last swing into that high. You can see here's the last swing into the high. So we'd have taken a DP off this low, and this is where we would have been looking for support yesterday. As you can see, the market opened down a bit, rallied back up again, and then declined sharply later. Interesting enough, where did this decline stop? Well, it went through that level. If it goes through that, you go back to the last significant low, which was right back here on the 25th of April. Right mouse click here, place the DP on from here. This would be our next level of support. Remember, these are levels that would be on your chart in advance. They're there before the market even gets there. And just look where the low of the day came in yesterday. Look at that, right at that secondary DP support. So it went through this one, but it stopped right at that DP off that low. So from the 15-minute chart, the market basically behaved pretty much as we'd anticipate. In other words, we're looking for a high, the market to decline down, to keep on going down to the next area of support. It didn't reach it here till later in the day. So that's important because this rally here, the rally off the open into about, where's that high there? Into about 11:45, just before 12 o'clock, was all corrective. So in other words, the large degree trend was down. I'll just take, actually no, we'll just see what these look like on the 3-minute chart. So what we're looking for on the 3-minute chart is actually sell setups. So that's why I was going to the higher time frame chart. There's your original DP resistance. Largely trend is down into this area of support first, and then this area of support second. You can see which actually nailed the very low of the day. I'm just going to take these two off because I want to now focus on the sell setups that unfolded a bit earlier in the day. Remember, we don't use our STF color anymore. We use our higher time frame charts to set the large degree trend. So I'll just change that to our volume to avoid confusion. So can you see that the large degree trend would have been down? So we would have been looking for sell setups. The first of them came in here. You can see we have a history triangle. We don't ignore sell setups or buy setups or any setups where the trade would have been stopped out for a loss. They're on the chart there so you can analyze them. We don't hide anything. If we right mouse click, place the analysis on, that would have given you a short trade and it would have been stopped out. Guess what, guys? Losses can, will and do happen. I'll say that again. Losses can and will and do happen. This is a fact of trading life, and there's just not enough gurus or vendors, software vendors, that talk about losses enough. They tend to sweep them underneath the carpet. All systems, approaches or any kind of traders will always have losing trades. But the trick with us is we use correct position sizing to vary the number of lots, contracts or shares to keep our initial risk small, in this case less than 2% of a sample $20,000 account, to keep the losses small. So that would have been a minus 1 hour loss. We then had another setup here which took you in by 1 tick. So you may have been filled on that, you may have not. But the most frustrating thing, and this is the whole point of the video today, is if you'd been short of that, you'd have just been stopped out for a couple of ticks. You see that went through there, just a couple of ticks beyond our stop trigger before the market started to decline sharply. Very frustrating. But let's have a look where the target of this trade would have been, because this is, I think, is the most spectacular thing yesterday that would have been absolutely brilliant if we hadn't have just been stopped out. Because that was a major high, this would be the initial decline, this would be a wave 1, here's our ABC correction, this would be a wave 2, therefore this TS3 sell we'd actually classify as what we call our holy grail trade setup. What is that? Well, it's a trade where we're going to catch the end of a wave 2 to then trade the wave 3. So our target would not have been here, it would have been down here at the typical wave 3 WPT. So our target would have been a massive 16R profit. So let's have a look what happened. Just look where the low of the day was. Right smack bang at that typical wave 3 WPT. Absolutely spot on. So this is why it was so frustrating, is that our higher time frame analysis was spot on. In other words, we were looking to have the large degree trend as being down. We were then calling this as a corrective rally. We were then looking for some sell setups. If we'd come in on this sell setup, that would have been our holy grail target, and the profit would have been absolutely massive. Did take us in for a short trade, but then just stopped us out. So this is why I wanted to do the video today, to show you that sometimes your analysis can be spot on, but the markets can just clip you out by a tick or so. This is what trading's all about. It's not an even playing field out there, guys. There will be days like this are very, very frustrating. So I just wanted to share that with you to show you that yes, the markets can be frustrating. There were some other sell opportunities on some other markets. As the markets were going down on the NQ a bit later on, there was a sell set up here, you can see. So if you'd kept your analysis and thinking that actually yes, the markets were still going down, you would have actually been able to get a sell set up there. If you thought the markets were carrying on down as we had in our large degree trend on our ES chart, you may well have said to yourself, well actually I want to trail this a bit further. I'll use the ATR stop. There it is, our red dots. If you had have done that, you could then have been stopped out here just as the market rallied up around here for a nice 10-hour profit. So there was an opportunity for the more experienced traders to catch that decline there on the NQ for a nice profit. But that's not the reason for the video today. The reason for the video today was to show you that you can do the best analysis, the best prep in the world, and get a trade set up that pretty much worked out as exactly as anticipated, that could have been an absolutely massive trade, but the market had another idea, just stopping you out before going your direction. So that's the lesson for today, in that no matter how good your analysis can be, the markets can be frustrating. And this is a side to the markets that most gurus or software vendors don't show you, and it's a reason why I wanted to show you that today, because I believe it's it's important that us software vendors do actually show the good, the bad and the ugly of trading, so we all have an unbiased view of what the markets can do. So let's hope that we have some good trades next week, which we should do, because the cyclical nature of trading means that these cycles go round from the good, the bad, the ugly into back to the good again. So this means that even though it was a very frustrating day, we're probably likely setting up for some very good days in the next few days.